Welcome back, everyone. In a landscape filled with fleeting trends and transient successes, this panel discussion that's coming up is dedicated to the art and science of discerning true sustainable growth. So, I guess without any further ado, let me now welcome our eminent panelists who are going to illuminate the path to finding the businesses of tomorrow, today. We have with us Mr. Manish Bhandari, the Director and Principal Officer of Valum Capital Advisors Private Limited. He's also the board member of APMI, Association of Portfolio Managers of India. He has 2 decades of experience in the Indian capital markets and has co-founded Valum Capital, an investment management and advisory firm in 2010, advising institutional, family offices and HNIs on equities and asset allocations. Prior to founding Valum, he has worked as a VP and portfolio manager with ING Management in India for 6 years. He has featured in the editorials in Economic Times. We have with us Mr. Rajneesh Garg. He's the partner and fund manager at Invested. He's one of the most respected names in the stock market fraternity in North India. He's a chartered accountant and company secretary and has over 30 years of wealth creating experience in the stock market. An ardent investor, Mr. Garg is also known for his investing techniques and strong grasp of market fundamentals. This unique blend has enabled him to create long-term, sustainable wealth for his clients and stakeholders. He conceptualized the philosophy behind Invested, advanced algorithms for investment decisions, their proprietary in-house research model, which led to recognition of Invested as best multi-cap PMS in India for the calendar year 2023. Our eminent panelist, Mr. Arun Subramaniam, is here with us. He's the founder and managing partner at Ampersand Capital. Mr. Subramaniam has over 25 years of professional experience in equity research and has featured as top-rated analyst in institutional investor and Asia Money. After graduating from St. Stephen's College, New Delhi, he qualified as a chartered accountant. He was last employed as managing director research with Bank of America Merrill Lynch, where he worked for 11 years before founding Ampersand. He strongly believes in fundamental equity research, and Ampersand's success is guided by the same principles towards investing. This session will be moderated by Mr. Kamal Manocha, the founder and CEO at PMS AIF World. Mr. Manocha is responsible for driving the overall business across both wealth management as well as content management. Over the past 5 years, PMS AIF World has conceptualized various innovations under his capable thought leadership, the most recent one being the quality, risk, and consistency framework created to deep dive the space of portfolio management services. He comes armed with over 18 years of experience, holds a master's degree in management and a bachelor's degree in economics from Hansraj College, Delhi University, and many more investment certifications. So like I said earlier, this is going to be a very compelling discussion. I will now hand over to Mr. Manocha to take the proceedings forward. Sir.
Thank you so much, Aishwarya. Welcome, everyone. We would like to understand from all of you, at this juncture where market is going through some kind of euphoria, this euphoria doesn't look like madness, looks like, something logical because it's a breakout movement for India. And we are fully convinced that yes, India is on a path towards maybe attaining 6 to 7 trillion economy by end of this decade. And that is why the topic for this entire event has been kept as, transformation from present 3.5 trillion to 6 trillion dollar economy. And in this particular discussion, we want to understand from all the esteemed panelists, what is that one key, where one can identify compounding businesses. From you, Manish, I would like to begin, and I would like to ask you this question, that we have been always hearing about these compounding stories in India in the mid and small cap space, whereby, these mid and small caps have compounded as multi-baggers, 3-bagger, 10-bagger, 50-bagger. But we have also seen in the West of late over last decade, many large companies in tech, probably, they became actually multi-baggers. In Indian context, the allocation of tech at the moment in Nifty 50 or Nifty 500 is around 10-11%. And the tech companies are like traditional businesses at the moment. So what is your I would say, thought on those large tech companies in Indian context? Can they turn out to be, say, compounders over this growth when we'll see India growing from, say, 4 trillion to 6, 7, 10 trillion?
Thank you, Kamal, for hosting us, and thank you. This is a very compelling discussion, and so I don't see any parallel what you can draw from the economy like US and then borrow those leaf in Indian context. The economic architectures of both these economies are very different. So these companies, what you're referring to, the Magnificent Seven, or maybe 15, 20 of them, are global innovators. They have a global reach, global market shares, and have a leadership positions in most of the businesses what they are operating, significant leadership position. And if I have to find a parallel for similar companies in India, they are maybe making at this point of time and would make over a period of time. And but you also did a narrative on the small caps becoming three baggers or five baggers. This all depends upon the economic architecture what India is going through. In 1999 to 2004, the rally which happened preceding that, the infrastructure companies became multi-baggers. Some were able to sustain, many of them are not able to sustain. New business model did emerge out of it or so. So what are the bigger trends? What are happening at this point of time? India will become a large economy. It is, and it will become a large economy. And what is happening from a trend point of view, from the government action point of view in the last 4, 5, 7, 10 years or so, is it has put up India on an acceleration phenomena. And what does it mean is that as the GDP grows substantially, the per capita of a large cohort of population grows, the middle bell curve grows significantly. And this creates a phenomenal consumption spending on the luxury goods, on the travel and experiences. So we will have companies coming up in and giving you a very good compounding story from this cohort significantly. And another trend which is happening and which will throw up many companies, many businesses or so, is the digital public infrastructure. And this has been created, and it has been like a super highway which has been created in the last 3, 4 years, and it will see a super phenomenal non-linear growth. And many companies will build their business model on top of it. And this will be a new cohort of the companies which will give you superlative returns or so. But having said that, whether the Indian large cap tech companies do have their time to shine and become a compounder and bigger compounder, answer is no. They are service income companies. They are facing a lot of challenges from the global capability centers, which are getting back in India, and many hundreds of them. So I don't see them becoming any significant compounder at this point of time.
Sure, Manish. Moving on to you, Rajneesh ji. I, heard your entire profile when Aishwarya was reading it. And Manish also talked about 1990s. So you have seen that entire era. And I would like to remind you that, you know, going by my learnings, markets have kind of shown one biggest bull run when the liberalization era started in 1991, where, I think Sensex went up from 1,000 to broadly 4,000, kind of a 4x in a period of 2.5 years. Then we saw similar era, second time during infrastructure and global liquidity driven boom between 2004 to 2007. Again, in 3 years, market went up almost 4 times from around 5,000 to 20,000. We're talking about Sensex. And then, around, after COVID, we have seen maybe a new era happening in India where markets are consistently going up. So do you equate this third bull run to the last, two bull runs as per your 3 decades of experience, or you see this even bigger?
देखिए, हेलो हेलो कमल जी, कैसे हैं आप?
All good, Ajay ji.
देखिए, ये जो बुल रन है, ये कह सकते हैं हम, ये यदि पिछले रन से बड़ा नहीं है तो इट इज ऑलमोस्ट इक्वल टू दोस. नो डाउट 2004 run was very started from very low valuations, so it is very difficult to achieve those kind of uh, big stories like Unitech and Aban, but it will no doubt match other like 2000 run, or you can say 2008 to 2020 run.
Sure. So, within this entire era of last 3 decades, we have also heard a story where, you have compounded probably 10 lakhs of your proprietary capital into 300 crores. So what worked for you, Rajneesh ji? थोड़ा उस पे भी हमें बताइए कि it was buy and hold, maybe good companies, good managements, which compounded over this period of 3 decades. Yeah, you took bold cash calls and then you did that again and again, and you converted your own 10 lakhs into 300 crores.
तो जी ऐसा है, मैंने ज्यादातर देखा, जैसे जो भी इन्वेस्टर के दिमाग में जब आने लगता है ना, तो किसी स्टॉक्स को मैं अभी लेके रखूंगा और इसको मेरे जैसे ग्रैंड चिल्ड्रन सेल करेंगे, तो आप ये समझ लीजिए वो बुल रन, वो जो करंट बुल रन चल रहा है वो खत्म होने वाला है। फॉर एग्जांपल आपको मैं बताता हूँ, जैसे ये जो लास्ट 2020 में जो बुल रन खत्म हुआ, तो उसमें जब ये आपके बजाज ट्विंस हैं या एच डी एफ सी ट्विंस हैं, इसके बारे में सभी लोग कसम खा रहे थे इसको हम ले लें और इसके बाद हमारे बच्चे या उसके उनके बच्चे भी बेचेंगे। और सिमिलरली 2008 के बुल रन में आप देखिए, यूनिट था, बहान था, और उसके बाद रिलायंस कैपिटल थी, इसके बारे में यही सोचते थे लोग। और टेक टेक बूम के एंड में ये भी यही सोचते थे लोग भी, जो ब्रिक एंड मॉर्टर कंपनीज है उनका तो कोई मतलब ही नहीं है। मेरे कई दोस्त ऐसे थे जिन्होंने लास्ट में जैसे भेल और ये एबीबी ऐसे स्टॉक्स को बेच के उन्होंने उस टाइम डीएसक्यू सॉफ्टवेयर और ये ऐसे ऐसे शेयर्स लिए थे। तो ये जो लॉन्ग टर्म वाला सिस्टम है, ये तो मैं तो नहीं सोचता भी ये कोई ज्यादा अच्छी चीज है। हाँ, ये आप जब भी देखोगे, जब नया बुल रन स्टार्ट होता है या जो बियर रन के एंड में जो डर्ट चीप स्टॉक्स होते हैं, जो डर्ट चीप स्टॉक्स कह लीजिए, डर्ट चीप सेक्टर्स होते हैं, जो उसको आप उठा सकते हो, लुकिंग एट द रिलेटिव चेंज विच हैज हैपेंड इन द लास्ट 2 to 3 years। उसके लिए यदि आपने बायस फ्री इन्वेस्टमेंट करनी है, तो यू हैव टू डू टेक द हेल्प ऑफ क्वांट ऑल्सो, क्योंकि ज्यादातर हम लोग क्या है, ह्यूमंस वी आर अफेक्टेड बाय द से इमोशंस लाइक ग्रीड है, फियर है। उसके बाद आजकल तो जैसे सोशल मीडिया बहुत हो गया है, सोशल मीडिया में कभी आ रहा है जी कोई वॉर चल रही है या कुछ ऐसा चल रहा है, तो बेसिकली इस चीजों आपका जो कभी आपके मन में डर आएगा, कभी आपका लालच आएगा। जैसे आजकल लालच आ रहा है हर आदमी को, सबको लग रहा है ये मोदी जी आएंगे, तो क्योंकि उनको आना ऑलमोस्ट पक्का है, तो एवरीबॉडी इज गोइंग फॉर पीएसयू स्टॉक्स। उससे पहले जब थोड़े दिन पहले की बात है, जब हर आदमी कह रहा है पीएसयू स्टॉक्स को तो इन्वेस्ट करने का मतलब ही नहीं है, किसी ने ये रिलेटिव चेंज को नोट नहीं करा अभी। रिलेटिवली जो इस गवर्नमेंट के आने के बाद इनकी सारी इनकी मैनेजमेंट्स बिल्कुल टोटली चेंज कर दी गई हैं। तो दैट वाज द टाइम टू इन्वेस्ट नाउ। अभी मुझे लगता है जैसे ये पीएसयू स्टॉक्स हैं, जहाँ इसमें थोड़ा बहुत आदमी को थोड़ा सोच के चलना चाहिए।
Sure, Rajneesh ji. Moving on to
और
you.
यहाँ तक, हाँ जी,
Yeah, please, you want to say something? आप कुछ कहना चाह
तो
रहे हैं?
बेसिकली आपको डर्ट चीप स्टॉक्स ही उठानी पड़ेंगे जब मार्केट। हाँ, पर डर्ट चीप स्टॉक तो ये नहीं है भी जब भी आपको लगता है भी ये रिलेटिवली कम, इनकी वैल्यूएशंस कम है, जब मार्केट की वैल्यूएशन ओवरऑल कम है, देन यू कैन गो फॉर द उसमें से जो स्टॉक्स हैं, जो स्टॉक्स हैं या ग्रुप ऑफ स्टॉक्स हैं जो बिल्कुल डर्ट चीप पड़े हैं और रिलेटिवली चेंज। जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल अभी रिसेंटली देखिए रिलेटिव चेंज क्या हुई है इंडिया में, जैसे जीएसटी आने के बाद गवर्नमेंट के पास बहुत ज्यादा उनके ऑफर्स बहुत भर गए हैं, तो उनके बाद उसकी गवर्नमेंट ने इंटेंशन भी दिखाई भी उस पैसे को उन्होंने लॉन्ग टर्म जो कैपिटल एसेट्स को जनरेट करने के लिए लगाया। जैसे तो उस तरह के स्टॉक्स, जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल डिफेंस में गए हैं या रेलवेज है या रोड्स है, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, तो उस टाइप पूरी इंटेंशन वो टोटली क्लियर बाय द गवर्नमेंट। तो उस तरह के स्टॉक्स के जाने के लिए और मिल भी चीप रहे थे, तो इसी तरह से जनरेट होगी ना। यदि आप कहोगे और आप ये भी देखो उल्टा, मैं कहूंगा एचडीएफसी ट्विंस ट्विंस में एवरीबडी वाज इन्वेस्टेड, क्योंकि ये लास्ट रन के शेयर थे। और देखिए किसी को कोई वेल्थ जनरेट होने की बात तो दूर की छोड़ी, मेरे ख्याल तो लोगों ने पैसा खराब ही करा है।
नहीं, बिल्कुल सही बोला आपने रजनीश जी, आई एग्री विद यू. So, Arun, we all understand, maybe taking cue from Rajneesh ji, is that market is all about common sense, which is, I think, very rare. And this is what in crux which Rajneesh ji is talking about. So what do you comprehend of, market today in terms of the kind of run which is going on, whereby old economy stocks which are doing really well, but new economy stocks like tech, consumer companies, private banks, they're not doing good. So what do you comprehend, of this entire juncture, this entire bull run which is going on at the moment?
Yeah, see, this bull run could be slightly different. I mean, we've obviously, like Rajniji mentioned, we saw the bull run in the early 2000s, and then, of course, we saw the one which happened post Modi ji's coming in. But I think post COVID, what we have seen, I'm not talking about the initial phase, but the phase after that, this bull run seems to be slightly different. Uh, 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 Unlike the ones which happened earlier, this time actually you're probably seeing a lot of fundamental based investing. Only because the invested class has actually changed. Earlier, there used to be a lot of speculative activity. Not that it is not there now, but you've seen the mushrooming of family offices, AIFs, PMSs. So a lot of investors are now actually investing based on pure fundamentals. And they're taking this long-term view that how India will pan out going forward. And India, as we see it, today is probably the best placed in terms of the fiscal situation. Banks are never been as well capitalized as they are today, and all the problems which they had in the mid 2000, 2008, 2009 period. The interest rate situation, although it's high, we believe it will just come off, and we are anyway much better than what the West is today. As far as inflation is concerned, again, we are better placed. In terms of exchange rate, we have been quite stable and quite good. And of course, the political situation, as you already know, is quite stable. So we probably are in a slightly different situation compared to what happened in the last 3 decades. But I do agree there are certain pockets which could be deemed to be overvalued. One of them could be PSUs, like Rajesh mentioned. There's a lot of euphoria and expectation that the political regime will continue, and therefore PSUs will continue to do well. That may or may not necessarily happen because it is not that something intrinsically has changed. Yes, there was value in those in that space that has kind of got unlocked, but it's not that the regulation or interference, all that has gone away. So we need to tread carefully, but I am quite positive on India's prospects over the next 5 to 7 years.
Sure, Arun. Moving on to you, Manish. I was just checking your website. You probably are a very simple fund manager who has. I personally, I'm not aware, any particular story or a philosophy that you follow. You simply say we follow GARP. We follow, growth at reasonable price, and you have kept it like agnostic to any index or any theme or any style, which is like very interesting. And obviously, return speaks a lot because your returns are quite good and consistent, and you have a very long-term track record. But my question to you is that are there really any good growing opportunities today which are available at reasonable valuations? Can you give us few examples?
No, thank you. Thank you for evoking my interest in GARP, revoking my interest. Incidentally, I must tell you, Kamal, ki GARP as a strategy is run across the world. So it is not something which is being coined. So there are various strategies, I must tell for the readers. There is a momentum as a strategy. What is a momentum? Buy high growth companies, high P multiple, and they are likely to do well, and they have done well today, they will do well tomorrow. So this is a momentum as a strategy. There is a deep cyclical value, a deep value, jahan pe you buy a company because it has got a huge land. Some point of time, a corporate action will change it, or you may be buying a company at a net cash, or maybe a current account, a current assets are far higher than the value of the company. And then there is a growth at a reasonable price, which we follow very carefully. So isme we want to buy good businesses. We want to buy good businesses. And now can there be a good businesses which are available at a reasonable value? Answer is yes. What is the value? Value is a P multiple value, is EV by EBITDA multiple a value. So what we do at our end, we look at the earning cycles very carefully. So जो कंपनी आज आपको लगता है 30 के पी पे है, वो 30 के पी पे नहीं, अगर वो अर्निंग डाउन साइकिल में है, वो अर्निंग डाउन साइकिल में 30 के पी पे होगी, अर्निंग अप साइकिल के अंदर वो कंपनी होगी 15 के पी पे, 15 के पी पे. So you have to buy a company, a good business at a down earning cycle, and you can invest in that company, and maybe you have to sell that company if you think, I as a manager think, कि उसका earning peak of the cycle आ चुका है. Now giving an example, अगर मैं पीछे जाऊं तो ऐसी एग्जाम्पल थी डायग्नोस्टिक कंपनीज में. So 2021 के अंदर पोस्ट कोविड वर्ल्ड, वहां पे कोविड का भी टेलविंड था अर्निंग्स का, उनके एक्सपेंशंस का भी टेलविंड था. सो सडनली दोस कंपनीज बिकेम हाईली वैल्यूएबल, बट वो अपने अर्निंग अप साइकिल में थी. और दैट्स अ रीजन those companies have not done well after the COVID and they saw a crash because उनका अर्निंग साइकिल चेंज हुआ. अर्निंग अप साइकिल के अंदर क्या होता है कि when you are closer to the earning up cycle, the P multiple also inflates. So ये शायद एवरेज इन्वेस्टर को थोड़ा समझने में मुश्किल हो जाता है कि सडनली 15 P मल्टीपल का स्टॉक 35 P मल्टीपल पे चलता है और उसमें अर्निंग्स का भी टेलविंड होता है. सो दिस इज अ प्रेसिपी ऑफ डिजास्टर टू बाय अ कंपनी. आज अगर आप मेरे को पूछें तो आप अगर मैग्निफिसेंट टेक को बोले हैं दे हैव डन वेरी वेल और सो, बट अगर आप देखिए उनका अर्निंग एक्सेलरेशन भी हुआ है बिकॉज ऑफ द कोविड. जहां पे आपके घर में पहले 2 लैपटॉप होते थे या 1 लैपटॉप होता था, लैपटॉप होता ही नहीं था, आज आपके घर में 4 लैपटॉप है बिकॉज एवरीवन वांट्स टू डू वर्क फ्रॉम होम. सो उसमें अर्निंग एक्सेलरेशन हुआ है. सो कैन दे मेंटेन द सेम पेस ऑफ द अर्निंग्स? आंसर इज नो. लॉजिकल आंसर इज नो. फ्यू में एंड फ्यू में नॉट, बट जनरल कोहर्ट में नॉट बी. सो ऐसे में हमें वो ऐसी कंपनियां ढूंढनी है जहां पे या तो कुछ अर्निंग्स आगे आने वाला टेलविंड उनका स्टोर्ड है. सो ऐसे में कई सारी कंपनीज होती हैं, बड़ा केयरफुल देखना पड़ता है. सो एज अ फंड मैनेजर हमारे लिए 3 बड़े टेस्ट ऑफ ट्रायल्स होते हैं. एक होता है कि वी हैव टू गो राइट ऑन दी मार्केट साइकिल्स, ऐसे किसी भी इन्वेस्टर के लिए कि वो मार्केट साइकिल कौन सी है आपकी. बुल 2020 में इन्वेस्टमेंट्स आसान था, बड़ा मुश्किल टाइम था, बट उस समय आसान था क्योंकि वैल्यूज बड़े फेवरेबल में थी, मार्केट साइकिल फेवर में नहीं थी. सेम केस वाज इन 2019 बिफोर कोविड ऑल्सो, आफ्टर द मिड कैप बूम एंड बर्स्ट. एंड द सेकंड थिंग इज आपका सेक्टर सिलेक्शन सही होना चाहिए. सेक्टर सिलेक्शन से आई मीन टू से कि दिस टाइम roughly 20-25% of the index returns are contributed by PSU. और अगर कोई मैनेजर PSU में इन्वेस्टेड नहीं था, so then there is a huge challenge for them. How do you beat the indices even? And the third thing is a stock selection. You may be in a right sector, but एक stock और दूसरे stock के बीच में kind of divergence हो सकता है. So इन 3 test of ट्रायल से निकलने के बाद ही कोई रिटर्न है, जो कोई स्टॉक होगा जो आपको आपका फेवरेबल रिटर्न दे पाएगा. Yes, we do find this. We do apply our understanding of framework of GARP into the companies. We do. I can't name the companies, but I can still tell you that there are enough opportunities. If I have to put up a GARP framework, in some cycle they are difficult, but today if I have to give you an example, हमने बड़ा इन्वेस्टमेंट किया है ऐसी कंपनीज में जहां पे बहुत बड़ी आज जो उनके प्रोडक्ट्स बिक रहे हैं उसके साथ उनमें बहुत बड़ी सर्विस इनकम भी क्रिएट हो रही है. देयर इज अ ह्यूज सर्विस इनकम कंपोनेंट व्हिच इज गेटिंग क्रिएटेड इन दो सेट ऑफ कंपनीज, एंड टुडे दे विल एंजॉय or maybe lower margins in their product, but then as the service income becomes bigger and bigger portion of their businesses, the earnings is stored in the future, and that is a good time today to get invested with the next 2 or 3 or 4 year view in those set of companies. So you'll always have something which will work in some framework. At some point of time, these frameworks may not work in an intermediate period because some other frameworks are working very well. So as a manager, we do face these challenges, and we do navigate through these kind of challenges.
Sure, Manish. Moving on to you, Arun. I would want to understand, Ampersand has been doing really well. What is working for you guys, and what do you see kind of compounding stories from here on, and how are you kind of strategizing within your portfolio at this juncture where valuations are like not looking very fair, and we are like seeing markets inching and kind of becoming expensive. But obviously, are you adding cash in your portfolio, or you're still finding good compounding opportunities? How are you strategizing in this context?
Okay, actually, this will take an entire session, but anyway, I'll try and summarize it. Yes, we have done well, but I think more than doing well, it's what we are actually reasonably proud about is that we've been quite consistent. I mean, we didn't do extraordinarily well post-COVID when I think most of these PMS small cap dedicated funds multiplied their returns. We didn't. I mean, but at the same time, when the situation was normalized, we could actually end up doing far better than most others. Actually, our rating, we have actually been in the top quartile for most of the years since our existence. And one of the reasons is that we have actually stuck to what we understand. And we have been, me and my team has actually, we have had a fundamental base in equity research. We have tracked companies and we have a regular, we have a methodology of actually tracking them very regularly to see how our thesis, whether thesis is panning out or not. And we do make mistakes, and we make mistakes, we realize it, and we exit. But having said that, we try and identify companies where the market opportunity is huge, and we believe that the company is well positioned or has the capability to take a larger share of the pie in that market. And valuations, like Manish, actually, you had posed the question to Manish about GARP. While it's obviously a great thing to buy companies at a reasonable price, but in today's market, you are not going to get those such companies as you did a few years ago. So I think GARP is important, but at the same time, the business, buying into the right business, that is actually equally or even more important. So while there may be companies which could have actually gone up fourfold, fivefold in the last couple of years, and there are many names, and I'm not talking about the small caps or the micro caps. I'm talking about the mid-sized names which have actually quadrupled, quintupled in the last couple of years. Those still may not have value, but they still have very exciting prospects ahead. I can mention some names with the disclaimer that some of them we may hold. Like example, Trent, Varun Beverages, Titan. These are the kind of companies, if you had bought them 2 years ago, they would have been expensive. You buy them today, they are still expensive. The question is whether you hold on to them and continue to believe in them, or you believe they're expensive and then try and exit and get into something much more value, much more cheaper name, so to speak. So we have actually stuck to our thesis philosophy, and we have continued with that. We have not actually gone with what the market is saying or the noise. We have tried to do it. It's a very difficult thing to cut off the noise, and believe me, when you see so many funds doing well with a very huge PSU basket, and we have very minimal exposure to PSUs. But because that's not been our philosophy, but we've stuck to a philosophy, and that has actually kind of paid off. So there are opportunities. Like I said, there are opportunities in emerging themes. There are opportunities within the consumption basket or in capital goods. These are the three areas we are focusing on, and we think that we'll stick to that.
Sure, Arun. Moving on to you, Rajneesh जी, आपका 3 decades का जो experience है, उससे आप हमें ये बताइए, इस topic में हमारा topic है how to identify fast growing businesses which are compounding even in future. Is there any one indicator, ऐसा कुछ आपने indicator समझा है जो कि like you mentioned about कि बिल्कुल stocks beaten down हो आज, when you आपने last में ये बताया कि अभी 2-3 साल पहले कोई PSU उसको टच नहीं कर रहा था, and आपने उस पे एंटर किया and they kind of became multi-baggers for you. Apart from this, इसके अलावा कुछ, because this is like deep value as one indicator, but इसके अलावा कुछ और maybe contrarian approach we can call it as an indicator, but इसके अलावा कुछ एक और indicator ऐसा है कि अगर आपने समझा है that insight, because you have a 3 decades of insight, and उस insight को you have converted into quant. I'm sure you have thought a lot, and hence it will be very interesting to know कि ऐसा कोई तरीका जिसमें stock अभी double triple होने वाला है या उससे ज़्यादा बड़ा होने वाला है, and then we can catch it.
नहीं, देखिए कमल जी, ऐसा कोई ऐसा एक सिंगल तरीका कुछ नहीं है जिससे हम ये कह सकें भी कोई स्टॉक या ग्रुप ऑफ स्टॉक्स हम पकड़ लें जो मल्टी बैगर होने वाला है. हाँ, मैं ये जरूर कहूंगा भी जैसे 2-3 फॉर्मूला आप रखोगे दिमाग में तो इट कैन बी वेरी हेल्पफुल टू कैच दोस टाइप ऑफ शेयर्स. पहले तो ये है, सबसे पहले आपने जो लास्ट बुल रन है जो खत्म हुआ है उसकी जो डार्लिंग्स हैं जिन्होंने बहुत रिलेटिवली बहुत ज्यादा आउट परफॉर्म कर रहा है उनको बिल्कुल हाथ नहीं लगा. उसका रीजन ये होता है, एक तो वो रीसेंसी बायस की वजह से ऑलमोस्ट एवरीबॉडी इज इन्वेस्टेड इनटू दैट दोस काइंड ऑफ शेयर्स. दूसरा ये है, जब मार्केट कहते हैं टेंडेंसी के किसी भी चीज को बहुत ज्यादा महंगा या सस्ता कर देती है. जब कोई भी बुल रन खत्म होता है तो उसके एंड में जो उस रन के जो फेवरेट स्टॉक्स होते हैं दोज आर वेरी एट वेरी हाई इन्फ्लेटेड मल्टीपल्स. और जब मार्केट नीचे आता है तो वो डिस्ट्रीब्यूट बहुत बुरी तरह हो जाते हैं। तो एक तो उनको हाथ नहीं लगाना जी, सबसे सबसे ज्यादा जरूरी ये है। उसके बाद यदि आपने उसके बाद आपने कौन से लेने हैं स्टॉक्स, तो यू हैव टू सी के पिछले 2-3 साल में क्या रिलेटिव चेंजेस हुई हैं। और वो जो स्टॉक्स रिलेटिव चेंज, उसके बाद जो स्टॉक्स रह गए हैं जो पिछले बुल रन में जिनको कुछ किसी ने हाथ भी नहीं लगाया, क्या उन स्टॉक्स में से कोई वो रिलेटिव चेंज उनको इफेक्ट कर रही है कि नहीं कर रही। एंड थर्ड इज कि आपको जो इन्वेस्टमेंट करनी है वो बायस फ्री करनी है। ना तो आपका बायस किसी किसी टाइप के स्टॉक्स में के फेवर में होना चाहिए, ना किसी टाइप का स्टॉक्स के अगेंस्ट होना चाहिए। एज ए ह्यूमन बीइंग इट इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट कि आप कोई बायस फ्री इन्वेस्टमेंट कर लो। तो उसके लिए आपको मशीन लर्निंग की बहुत ज्यादा जरूरत होती है। उसके लिए आप क्वांट को यूज करें। क्वांट कई बार आपको ऐसी ऐसी चीजें बताता है जो आप सुनना भी नहीं चाहते। तो ये मेरे को लगता है ये 3 पॉइंट आप रखोगे ध्यान, तो आपको मल्टी बैगर्स आराम से मिलते हैं। और मेरे तो आप लास्ट मैंने तो आई जस्ट स्टार्टेड इन फ्रॉम 94 ऑनवर्ड्स। तो मेरे को जो भी टॉप, जो किसी भी रन में जो टॉप स्टॉक्स थे, चाहे आपको 2000 में आईटी के स्टॉक्स थे, या 2004 to 8 वाले में ये आपका कैपिटल गुड्स, या ये यूनिटेक और उसकी साथ के जो शेयर्स थे, या इसके बाद आपका 2008 to 2020 में बजाज फाइनेंस या बैंकिंग स्टॉक्स का रन था जैसे। तो ये सारे स्टॉक्स मेरे हाथ में आए हैं। और अभी भी जैसे पीएसयू स्टॉक्स रिसेंटली वो भी मेरे को मिले हैं। इसलिए मैं ये सोचता हूँ कि बायस फ्री इन्वेस्टमेंट इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। और पिछले स्टॉक्स को बिल्कुल हाथ नहीं लगा।
Very nice. Moving on to you, Manish. So, do you think that the forgotten stocks of last bull run, the quality stocks which have not participated, like HDFC Bank and tech companies and many other consumer stocks, the time of those stocks is ahead?
नो, नॉट एट ऑल। रजनीश जी ने बहुत अच्छी बात बोली कि उन्होंने ये बोला कि लास्ट बुल साइकिल के उन चीजों को हाथ नहीं लगाना है, वो सब कंपनियों में रिसर्च करना पड़ेगा। सो उसके अंदर हो सकता है आप कहीं पे डेड कैट बाउंसेस में जा रहे हैं, बट अगर आप देखें इतने सालों में, सो हर नया बुल रन नई सेट ऑफ कंपनीज को, दिट इज अ बर्थ प्लेस फॉर द न्यू सेट ऑफ कंपनीज। एंड दिस टाइम द PSUs हैव डन वेल आफ्टर 7 or 8 or 10 years ऑफ स्टॉप गैप अरेंजमेंट्स। सो 8 या 10 साल लगे PSUs को वापस द थीम आने में। अगर आप इंडिया की हिस्ट्री देखें 1999 से ले लेते हैं, जो आज 25 साल हो जाते हैं। सो इन्फोसिस का बुल रन था 1999-2000 में, एंड इट टुक 8 years फॉर इन्फोसिस टू कम बैक अगेन टू द सेम मार्केट कैप लेवल्स। और सेम इज द केस इन 2005-6 व्हेन द मीडिया एंड बूम हैपेंड एंड बूम एंड बम बस्टेड। और एक इसमें बड़ा पैटर्न है, बड़ा सिंपल पैटर्न दिखा है। 2015 में 14-15 में फार्मास्यूटिकल्स कंपनीज का बूम एंड बस्ट हुआ, और वापस फार्मास्यूटिकल्स के मार्केट कैप को आने में 7 to 8 years लगा। सो जो वेव की बात हम कर रहे हैं कि अगर आपने पिछले वाले वो कंपनीज खरीदी जिनका साइकिल बहुत अच्छा रहा है, और अगर उसके अंदर वापस जब डिफ्लेशन होता है, अर्निंग्स डिफ्लेशन, उनके मल्टीपल्स का डिफ्लेशन, तो थोड़ा लंबा टाइम कॉम्प्रेशन चलता है। सो यू कांट बी इन अ हरी कि आप अचानक सोचें कि वापस वो 2 साल के अंदर वो वापस बाउंस बैक हो जाएंगे। सो यू हैव टू डू लॉट ऑफ वर्क। और इन्वेस्टिंग इतना सिंपल भी नहीं है जितना इसको बना दिया गया है मीडिया ने और चैनल्स ने, कि कोई भी चीज को हाथ लगाएं तो वो चल जाएगा। This time the bubble will be set in the PSU. This is no second thought about it, and more so in the railway PSU, जहाँ पे सिंगल कंज्यूमर है, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया डिसाइड करेगी किसको क्या मिलेगा। देयर इज अ साइकिल एंड इलेक्शन साइकिल ऑफ स्पेंडिंग एंड एवरीथिंग। और हम कोई रेलवे यहाँ से यूरोप के लिए बिल्ड नहीं कर रहे हैं, हम लोग रेलवे हमारे लिए बिल्ड कर रहे हैं। सो इट हैज गॉट इज ओन साइकिल्स। सो ऐसे के अंदर शायद लोगों को केयरफुल रहना पड़ेगा। कई बार पैसा बचाना भी ये अपना आप में एक बहुत बड़ी बात हो जाती है, जो शायद लोगों को नहीं समझ आता। एंड वेल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ स्टॉक्स होगा, 12 करोड़ डीमैट अकाउंट है, उसमें से 7-4-5 यूनिक होंगे तो उसमें भी हो जाएगा। सो नया नया सेक्टर, नया बिजनेस आर्किटेक्चर्स विल लीड द न्यू बुल रन, नॉट द ओल्ड वन, विच आई एम ऑफ अ व्यू। एंड उसके लिए आपको जो नए डायरेक्शनल चेंजेस हैं वो देखने पड़ेंगे। नया डायरेक्शनल चेंजेस जिसमें बहुत बड़ा नॉन लीनियरिटी आएगा, वो आएगा, हमें वो कंपनियां ढूंढनी पड़ेगी जो डिजिटल पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर से बेनिफिट होगी, उनके ऑन टॉप ऑफ इट एप्लीकेशंस बनाएंगी और न्यू इकोनॉमी में के लिए बेनिफिशियरी रहेंगी। कुछ कंपनीज ओल्ड इकोनॉमी के उसके अंदर बुल रन में आएगा, कई नए बिजनेस मॉडल आएंगे। सो फॉर मी टू टेल यू कि वो जो पुराने कंपनीज हैं वही वापस मल्टीबैगर बन जाएंगे. 1 or 2 of them, they are all solid business models. इसमें हम बिजनेस और स्टॉक प्राइस को थोड़ा डिफरेंशिएट करेंगे तो इंपॉर्टेंट रहेगा. यहीं गलती हो जाती है जहां पे अच्छा बिजनेस को अच्छा स्टॉक प्राइस समझ लिया जाता है. आई थिंक फॉर द एवरेज रीडर दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड.
Sure, Manish, very well said. Moving on to last question of this panel, Arun, you mentioned, in your last answer that it is today difficult to find relatively, value businesses where growth is also good. I agree to that 100%. And that is why I asked that question from Manish. But now in the current context, you are managing portfolio in the listed space. So if, PSUs have peaked, if quality is, yet not attractive, and evaluations are overall kind of not very attractive, do you still find listed space offering as much opportunities to find fast growing compounding businesses over, they say next couple of years? Or you think investors who are like family offices or large clients should kind of diversify their portfolio by seeing something in unlisted space also?
Okay, see, I don't have such a strong view on listed versus unlisted, because obviously in unlisted is something which we've not really explored. So I'll first stick to listed and then try and answer your question on listed. Like I actually mentioned in my earlier statement, I said yes, things do get difficult when markets run up and valuations seemingly start to get stretched in several pockets. It's there in our portfolio too. But I was trying to explain that why we actually stick to some of those names despite the valuations is because of the business more than the valuation. So it's not that GARP succeeds every time. There is some time when you actually buy a business at any price, even that could succeed. But that's to each his own. But having said that, we obviously would like to find more and more interesting ideas, or if not ideas, at least themes where we can actually try and park some of our money and invest some of our money in. So there are themes. I'm not saying that you will not get such themes. Like Manish mentioned, there will be new leaders, but new leaders take time to come. I mean, nobody spoke about PSUs like a couple of years ago, or the railway stocks, which have seen some extraordinary rally. But these things evolve over time, and it is only when you actually invest early you will recognize that these have actually become indeed the new leaders. For instance, there's a space, a theme, premiumization as a theme. It spreads across various sectors. Whether it is in motorcycles or whether it is in terms of consumer durables. So that is one theme you can play in, because assuming that your macro environment improves, but not doesn't really. I don't think GDP is going to go in double digits or anything of that sort. We may probably be in the 6 to 7% kind of GDP regime. But you will have to obviously get into themes which can take market share from within the same space, take market share from their counterparts or their peers, and that is what will actually drive the alpha. So premiumization is something which we will continue to look for ideas. Energy transition is another thing which, for example, the renewable energy is one space which everybody is looking at, but most of them have done extremely well. Most of the stocks have done extremely well, and some of them don't really have a track record to boast of. So we try and look at some of the support system, the ancillaries, which can actually support these that space, and that could actually again be something which could deliver handsome returns. But most of them are actually slightly smaller companies, maybe mid cap. But that is another space which could actually do extremely well over the 5 to 10 year period. So there are themes in the listed space, I think, which could deliver superior returns, and we stick to that. Coming to the unlisted space, like I said, I really don't have a very strong handle on unlisted because essentially you are believing more in the management and the idea of what the management is trying to build, and you are actually getting into that very early. And there would be a long gestation for a business. There could be high risk of failure and extraordinary benefit if that business succeeds. So that is something which needs thorough investigation and due diligence. Something which if fund managers are open to, then well, sure, one can diversify.
Thank you, everyone. I think, we have done justice to the topic. So I'll just conclude by, telling everyone that there is no one formula to identify fast-growing compounding businesses. So, though all these topics that we are discussing about in this entire event have been selected by our clients, because, we had asked our clients what are the topics that they want to kind of be covered. And the conclusion of this topic is that, give money to all the fund managers who at different times will follow different styles, different strategies, and we'll try and identify alpha creating opportunities. And we at PMS AIF World kind of make our endeavor and sincere endeavor to objectively evaluate and find out such fund managers and bring it to you, because things keep changing, scenarios keep changing, market works on cycles, and portfolio is a construct of various styles. And hence, identifying one particular formula or one particular method of identifying a company which is going to compound is very difficult, for a common investor. Thank you everyone for your time today. It was a really insightful discussion. Over to you, Aishwarya.